Let's get started. My name is Justin Scanson. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Just Play, and you guys are in the right place. This is the Winning Edge with Just Play Sports Solutions. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how Just Play and our game planning tools can help you be better prepared and give you a competitive edge. And we're going to provide a lot of real world examples of how that is so. We want to cover, let me check my list here, custom digital playbooks, scouting automation, quizzes and analytics, group sessions, presentations, and more. Our expert in doing the heavy lifting today is coming live from Jerry Seinfeld's studio apartment, Matt Kimsey. Matt, how's it going?
Hey, Justin, thanks. Great to have everybody here. Excited to talk some lacrosse. I want to thank and introduce, Coach Robert Bray, Vanderbilt, Coach Melissa Lehman, Rutgers, for hopping on here as well. And just felt like we want to have coaches whenever possible get on here and talk about their successes. If you caught our conversation, both programs had a really great year and did some great things. And obviously we're part of the Just Play family. So we'd like to get them on to talk about that, but really appreciate coaches being on here to talk through some of their successes.
Awesome. Okay. So before I turn it back over to Matt and the coaches, for everybody here in attendance, we've already done a sound check. You guys can see us and hear us. I wanted to let you know that this isn't just for us to hear ourselves talk. If you guys have questions, hit me in the chat, hit me in the question and answer. I'll watch those and I'll make sure to slow down coaches if we need to, circle back to anything that we need to. But if you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And with that, Matt, I'm going to turn the show over to you.
Sounds great. Let's roll. I'm going to share my screen here. Make sure we're good to go. Can everybody see screen now? We're good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Kind of layout here as we don't want to take too much time, but I definitely want to dive into the features that Justin mentioned. We're going to go through kind of account layout a little bit, and then we're going to dive right into playbook, how we can get things ready for a fall for each program. How do we teach and coach with Just Play? And then we'll talk scouting, our automation platform, show you the Rutgers team broken down. So that'll be good. Melissa can chime in then. And then we'll talk just quizzes, some analytics, and some different features there. And please, type in questions for sure. If you have anything you want me to break something down a little bit more, but I'm excited to get rolling. We are a web-based app. You're looking at our dashboard on Google Chrome. All right. Important to know, Just Play. It's a one-stop shop for a workflow, for your coaching, teaching, preparation of your lacrosse program. Like I mentioned, scouting, playbooks, everything. We want to understand we have complete control of content. We can share content to users, different groups, etc. Diving in, let's just jump right into the playbook itself. I'm going to click on our playbook, and we're going to actually add a play here. So you can see our playbook. It's loading up. We've got this filtered by playbook year currently. We use a lot of terminology types and terms to organize and coordinate a playbook. I think really important, understanding where content goes. How can we set up a new plan for a fall? If we're jumping into a 2022 year, what worked for us last year? How do we organize that moving forward? And how do we keep drills in here to build practice plans, etc. Adding plays, very simple to use. So let's just, maybe we jump in, let's do a 42, maybe motion play call. I'm going to tag this with different terms, again, under our terminology types, formation. You can tag this as a 42. Let's go again, playbook year 2022 tag, and maybe we go set type. We're going to actually create a pairs. If I can type offense. Few tags there, play description, notes, coaching points, etc. And we'll save. When we hit save, we're going to go straight into a diagram. where we can add diagram tab where we can add diagrams. So we can pull in, a number of starter templates existing. We can also build from existing offensive and defensive playbooks, scouts, or terminology. We're really flexible to streamline how we create content. Let's just jump in with a basic starter here, and we'll load up the diagram tool. All right, so basic starter template. I'm going to go design settings. I want to adjust. I like to show the attack zoom a little bit bigger, offensive focus if I'm diagramming up something offensively. And then we kind of said we're on a 42. So let's just go with, kind of setting our players up into a 3 behind look, kind of an open set. Basic controls, keyboard shortcuts work really user friendly. Double clicking maybe to move the ball to the 4 player. We can adjust these, change to numbers, X's and O's, change colors, all that good stuff. Basic design. Let me move your window, my video window here. Our blue arrows are going to be passes, ground balls if we're doing drills. Our black arrows will be off ball movements and picks. And then our orange arrows will be carries, dodges, etc. So, this is maybe we got a 42 motion. I'm going to set up. I'm going to select my blue line. My pass 4 is going to move the ball to 3. You see it snaps 2. All right. And then we're going to maybe follow this with the, pass down, pick down. So 4, we can come and pass. We can adjust these lines of the off ball. Where do we want to set that? We'll have 1 off ball get through. We'll have 2 come over this. Again, really easy to adjust. And then we'll have our, rotation here. 6 is going to get through the 8 meter. Maybe on this carryover, we get free position opportunity, and we'll just rotate around there. So basic motions, you see, really easy to create. 3 now. We're going to go ahead and get over this. And then we can showcase, a look, maybe our first look would be this pass here, coming on the opposite side. One thing we really want to use is a sequencing, so understanding holistically what's going on the field, what's happening at the same time. You can see our motions here as we diagram these, what's going to be occurring at that time. So I'm going to go ahead and go and delay these because I want that pick to come first. Oh, go 1. Double click and delay these. And really important to show that sequencing is going to be usable with multi-point lines, but also double clicking any of these can give you that timing delay so we can set it up. It can mesh correctly. And it looks good. So we've got our timing set. I can go now and preview this animation. I can slow this down a little bit so it's a little bit clearer for you, and we'll animate and create the screen. Pass down, pick down, motion over the top with a pass to the 2 coming on the backside, just a 2-man offense with 3-man rotation around the crease. Really easy to use. I think just to understand, we'll go back here, kind of show what the players see, but Coach Melissa, Coach Rob, just commentary maybe on the diagram tool itself, and I know you've got assistants that work in there as well, but feedback on that to some coaches who might want to hear, hey, what's it like to diagram with Just Play?
It's great. It takes some time Matt is super fast and makes it look super simple. It just takes some time to get used to, honestly, but it's a great way, especially over the last year when we weren't able to be with our players as much as we typically have been in the past, to do these kinds of things and then share with the team, because everybody has the app on their phone, so they can see it at any time. It just takes a little bit of time, but it's great.
Yeah, so my assistant did a lot of the diagramming, but I will say just having the ability to put things in motion for our athletes to see. I mean, so many of your student athletes learn in different ways. Some people can see it. They have a photographic memory. They know exactly, just if you drew something on the paper and they'll remember it, but a lot of people need to see it over and over. And to have that capability on their phones, like our girls really loved utilizing it. And I think that helps on game day. So.
Excellent. Thanks. Yeah. And just to intro this into what do the players see, right? Like, what is their view? And Melissa mentioned it, Rob mentioned it, on a player's phone, tablet. They can access it on the web as well. They have a login. This is the 42 motion we just drew up. This is their view. We've got play description details, in-app messaging where players can bounce, messages back and forth to the coaching staff on descriptions and questions if they have them. And then on the players' phones, they can toggle the animation and animate the plays. So being able to animate this, again, show all the motions, they can control their speed, is a great view so they can watch over. And what you're doing is you're flipping the classroom for your players. You're empowering them to have the content in their hands. And whether that's 10 extra minutes here, 15 extra minutes there before practice, waiting for classes, et cetera, you really see the results in these programs that are using it effectively. I mean, both, credit to Melissa and Rob, both programs, thousands of additional views on Just Play this past season, players viewing content pushed to them. So that is going to be the play diagram. How do we create content? And the other conversation is specifically, how do we coach the content? And I think the best way to push content to players is focused content specific to them. Just going to run you through a presentation on how we use this. Maybe a game plan, maybe this is a practice plan type. We do a lot of practice plans. I run a club program, and we do a lot of coach training with this, with practice plans and player training. But we can put any items in into our presentations from our entire playbooks here. So you could see basically, a cover setting setup where we want to get information to our team, our groups, and then we can pull in content, from throughout the playbook to focus their attention on that content specifically, share specifically to, unique groups, set date ranges, et cetera. And then on the players app, their view is now focused, right? So, coach puts out, hey, this is our session 1 for fall week coming up here in a few weeks. These are things as a player hits in, this is just kind of setting the table for them. Check out some new drills. We'll be working on this fall series, session. And then maybe notes, communications back and forth, in-app messaging. But then the ability for players to, okay, hey, we're talking about drift dodge example, right? Here's a description, here's an animation with some points of emphasis, and players even being able to diagram and animate these basic concepts to give more clarity. I think this is particularly with terminology and basic sets is particularly important for onboarding new players. Speed follows intelligence. I think that's a combination of confidence as well. And so players that are given the ability to be prepared for practice first day on the field, with a new team, transfers, freshmen, et cetera, I think it's really important. I think that confidence goes a long way for players. So preparing them again with these presentations, example of some drills here diagrammed within Just Play, and then maybe we're getting to, some basic sets. So again, focusing this conversation, understanding that, boom, players can get a jump on this at the start of the fall where they have their full playbook at their fingertips. They can view this content, view the plays, and really be ready to roll. So confidence to me is a really big thing with the playbook and how we teach the content. So I will pause just a second, Justin. If we have any questions, I'd like to take those, and then we'll jump into the analytics and quizzing.
If you guys have any questions, let's drop them in the chat right now. We got no questions so far, but I wanted to, as a former coach myself, echo Coach Lehman on the idea of student athletes, students, players learning differently. Each kid is different, and the ability for you to connect with them in different mediums with video, animated diagrams, static diagrams. One of my experiences as a former coach is having to teach my freshmen coming on to campus how to read a diagram. What is this? What do these lines mean? Because some of them have never experienced that. So I just wanted to echo that point. And as I stalled a little bit there, there's no questions. So let's keep going.
All right, I'm explaining it perfectly. So this is all right. Well, and to Justin's point too, and it's a great segue, really. we're going to take a quiz. This is a player quiz on the Players app, talking about how to teach diagrams, but also I think the quizzing is really important in our system because we use a lot of video. We use any video we can pull in from, Huddle, Score Break, whatever. If you use Sports Code, anything, any video solution we'll pull in from and utilize that to pair with our content in our playbook. But the big thing too is how do you teach and train your players to watch video? I think a lot of players will watch video and watch where the ball goes, and they'll observe the video, but they may not interact with the video the way you might want them to as a coach. So I think quizzing is a great way to do this. Quizzing, as I go through this, we can utilize a number of questions, diagrams, multiple choice, recall quizzes, stopwatch quizzes, but we're essentially interacting with our playbook with our players and getting their feedback. And we want to create that feedback loop. It's really important. So question, we're going to make them get the right answer because you can. It's definitely not the right answer there. And then we can have coaches' points pop up on that. You can be as extensive as possible with those quizzing feedback loops. This is a stopwatch question. So this is a timing question. They try to answer it correctly. And I think it's really good for training that mental image in their mind and then that decision that they've got to make at a certain time point. So when your teammate's dodging at you in this situation, you should, okay, how long does it take me to figure it? And dodging, mirror. All right. It's going to give me a time. How long did it take? Again, feedback loop for the coaching staff as well as we time these. And then this is going to be a recall question. So a great opportunity to put in some video. I think really great. The amount of motion offenses and reads you have to make defensively, then offensively as well. If you can use a recall question on your video quizzes, I think it's really beneficial because it's prompting them to view something. The screen will go blank, and then they'll have to make that decision. So it's training that quick decision. What should the backside attackers do here? When we saw the video, we're going to have them, boom, exchange. Again, we'll track that, and we'll get the feedback loop now for the players. So players can have this feedback loop. We can enable leaderboards on this as well for some internal competition. Players can see where they stack up. I think that's a good accountability feature as well. Ultimately, the players want the feedback. Coaching staff feedback is vitally important on the ability to take a look at a quiz, see where players are at with their understanding. This is the quiz creation. You can see, we can go and view the quiz results here. I can get a breakdown here as this loads up individually. So this would tell me, overall question data, 58%. That's pretty low. I'd want to adjust, as a coaching staff, what are we doing there? What are we making a mistake on? Why can't they understand? 83%, that would be, there's just a few that understand. And then we can get the individual session data. So you just saw me take this, there's our recap of that quiz, etc. So we can understand where we're at. And again, if we have leaderboards enabled, then we can track the leaderboards.
All right. If you guys are with me, give me a yes in the chat. I've frozen up. Matt's frozen up. Matt, you are muted.
Okay, I just got booted, but
okay. We're still here. We're still recording. All right, perfect. Okay. Hey, everybody, let's have the attendees. Just give me a yes in the chat. Let me know that you're still with us. Hey, in our Zoom culture, we've all dealt with this, and everybody's still with us. All right. So Matt, I believe it might be that New York studio apartment internet, but
yeah, spotty times.
Spotty times. We didn't miss much. I believe that we were just right before the screen.
Okay, so we're talking recapping quizzing and feedback. So if you heard me talking about quizzing, the feedback loop, really important, obviously for the players, but also for the coaches. And then we're jumping to another feedback loop that we focus on. And I was going to throw this to Melissa after I talk through this is, overall activity, how do we track player progress, player views, whether that's full team by group for competition internally, or individual reports. And so you can see an individual player in the system with the analytics, click on that player, and then get an individual, timestamp. If I click on this here, you can see our timestamp. We just viewed this quiz. We see how long we're on that page viewing that content. So really in depth with the content we're viewing, and you understand it's showing exactly how long we're viewing this content. So when I throw out the thousands of views and the thousands of minutes that, the Rutgers put on this last spring, that's coming straight from their account and their players. So Melissa, maybe just talk, if you would, just a little bit about, the players using it, at Rutgers, some of that feedback. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so one thing, just starting, because you just went over the quizzes, I think, so this past season, and it's a function that as a staff, we want to utilize a little bit more in this upcoming year. But one of the cool things is, so my assistant Anna works with our draw takers in our draw unit, and she had a quiz for them. And one of the things we were seeing is that they understood everything, but it was like the in-game communication and understanding in those split seconds. And so she devised a quiz for them, showing some video, having it pause, and they have to answer it. And throughout the year, that is definitely an area where I felt like as a program, we started to see improvement week after week, and the team just really gelling. And thankfully, because the possession for us was very important. If you watch one of our games, we had a tough time clearing the ball. So winning the draw was huge for us to get that possession. But what was also funny is we would get feedback from our players saying, I think you should word some of the questions like this, because they got really competitive with it. So it was neat to see. And like I said, we want to utilize that function a lot more. Just, it's another way to coach. And when you're not coaching out there on the field, you're coaching in just a different way and hitting them, as you would be on the field. But it's when you're not together and they're at home and they just have 5 minutes to complete something, and you're just hounding in your same coaching points in a different medium. So I thought that was huge for us. I can go into some other things later, but just figured it was timely talking about the quizzes.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. I love that feedback with it, and I think it's fun when we talk to coaches and then even talk to players. We've got some players on our staff at our club that utilize it in at their programs, and they just talk about how it empowers them to do things on their own timetable sometimes, and they have more flexibility and more control over their schedules as well. So that's cool. Great feedback. I'm going to shift gears here. If there's no questions on teaching, prepping the content, obviously we've been focused on that piece. I want to switch gears to our scouting platform and how we can both prepare better, in season, and then save, coaching staff quite a bit of time with our automation features. So I'll move along unless Justin interjects. Scouting reports here in our system. We build, scout templates to build our scouting reports off of, and I work with each of our programs to set those up periodically and set them up, make sure they mirror, the format you want, and then add some detail to as well. But in essence, we automate this process working with the NCAA stats. So if I go to add a new scouting report, we can type an opponent. Maybe we take Vanderbilt since I got one here. So we'll pull up the Fighting Coach Brays right here, and we'll assign a game date, and then we can select a template. So again, the templates we're talking about, really easy to do, and you can also create templates off of existing scouting reports and copy these over, assign date ranges, customize to users, etc. But you see, as I pull this in, we're loading up Vanderbilt's team stats for this past year. Okay, so we got the full team list of statistics. We've also got some different views here. These are specific to each account based on, your scouting template. We can see offensively, Vandy put the ball, on the goal, 22.8 shots per game on goal, 33 as far as the ranking in NCAA Division I. The average is 21.2. Pretty good in the assist category, and it was great at the draw control, obviously. So we can kind of get a breakdown of where we stand with some different statistics, fully customizable to each program. You know, we go to the matchup snapshot, we can glean, I think, some additional information here. We're in the system right now as California. All right, so we can look, you know, how do we rank top percentile in the country at Division I on the stats, and how do we compare? So where might we have some opportunities to take advantage of, showing some of this, you know, from a different look and gleaning some of that content. I think this piece itself is really focused on the coaching preparation of building the scout out. We're also going to automate the personnel for you as well in this process. So you can just go to purchase personnel here. We can search through, you know, the roster for Vanderbilt and pull in as we see fit and build the scatter report out. And we can also automate that entire roster. I could go and update on positions, i.e. show me stats that are pertinent to each position based on my templates and my stat profiles. We can build some auto skills lists to create some lists for us. And I hit sync, and we can pull in these stats for every player ID, every player paired to that specific profile with the scouting profile for stats that we want to see there for the entire roster. So that process itself, and Coach Bray, maybe I'll let you just jump in real quick on just that time-saving piece as a staff and the ability to kind of put some of that stuff all in one spot so that, you know, you're able to then copy and paste, and kind of your workflow, you know, sped up can provide, you know, different opportunities for you to invest in players in the spring. So maybe talk about that if you would, and then we'll go through a scout that's built.
Sure. You know, Melissa touched on it already a little bit, but, you know, student athletes are very busy, and time management is something that we focus on a lot at Vanderbilt, where academics are a priority and you only get a certain amount of time on the field. So this Just Play allows us to work remotely and share content with our kids at any time. And it really, really helped us to give them that information before practice, after they were done with the class, and even, you know, whenever they were able to view it. Sometimes they weren't able to get in their phone coming from class, but we talk about it in practice, and then they have some time later. So, which we're not together at that point. So it just really, really allows us to help the student athletes in their time management and our time management as well. And we used it for every game. We put scouting reports together, and we didn't necessarily sit in a room like we did in the old days and go through it. We pushed it out. We talked about it at practice. We added things, and typically Jill, the other assistant, built these things out. But all of us are watching film and putting in clips, and it really helped us be successful this year.
That's great, Coach. Thanks for that. Just the, you know, viewing, you know, behind the curtain a little bit with how these are created. I'm going to jump. We don't want to build out a full one here. I want to be time sensitive to you all, but I want to jump into this one. I told Melissa we're going to scout the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So we're going to build out this one. This has been built out, and then we'll show you what the players see as well. So, you know, personnel, we had automated those personnel. So this will pull in, you know, Rutgers of the list here as we load it up. Individual players, then we can build profiles out for, and again, assigning that content, focusing that content to each player with some automated quiz tagging here, which is a great feature for our Division I programs. You know, and then obviously, you know, being able to put tendencies, matchup keys, you know, shot charts, images, et cetera, in here to, you know, customize what your players are going to see, stats, you know, videos for these players, and then customize the matchups. Okay, so player profiles, and we'll show all you this, the player's view as well. Going backwards just a little bit to go through, you know, cover, you know, obviously any, you know, those could be travel itineraries, you know, game day dress or whatever. There's a lot of information you can put on the cover there through a scout. You know, this could be, this is the keys. So this is the meat and potatoes of this thing, you know, utilizing some of those matchup stats, percentiles to build some of this content. Depth chart and lists. So building out custom depth charts here. as well as I mentioned the custom lists, so we can put any statistic we want to see, build custom lists with multiple statistics so we can break down, who are their top threats, scores, et cetera, who's taking the draw controls. So that's a really big piece of it. Again, automating that part, building out custom reports, team leaders, comparison reports, and then adding in, plays, which is bringing in this, this playbook, into the fold here with the scouting report. I think even being able to, create scout, essentially scout cards for your backup players to run and execute what the opponent's going to run, the week of, is a really great use of the tool. Building custom plays in here. You can see we clip in. I'll show you when we get to the player app. And then Coach Bray mentioned it, pulling in video. So I'm using those video solutions, pulling in video, attaching it to not only overall scouts, but individual personnel. One thing to note, and I'll load this up, we'll hit the player view first, but we do have print view for everything. So full PDFs, we can save these and get those loaded up. Going to the player, view, again, what do the players see? How does this look for the players? We've got the scouting report pulled up here. They can click into it when it's shared to them. And we can view, cover. There's your keys. We got our personnel. And we got our video there as well. Let me move this down. I want to pop this video out, showing some video controls here. We'll go full screen with this. Just the ability to watch full screen on their phones, slow motion video, frame by frame, being able to break video down, again, a little bit more effectively, back 10, full speed, fast forward, rewind, etc. So being able to watch these clips on a player's phone, I think really important, paired with these scatter reports, multiple clips there. You can see the depth chart. We can also see our lists, top scores, etc. And then we've got our plays. So jumping into the plays here, jumping to a specific play, it may be tagged to a specific player, video within that. But again, then players can animate these plays, view the content on their phone paired with this scatter report. Loading back, I want to jump into a player profile here, specifically as we get going there. All right.
So Matt, I'm going to slow you down here just for a second.
Yeah.
I want to check in with our attendees. If you guys are good with everything so far, just hit me with a yes in the chat. If you guys have any questions, if you won't need us to go back on anything, please let us know. Matt, I had one question for you, and I don't know if I missed it. The video, they can bring in anything, essentially any video file into this, correct?
Definitely. And I'll just jump in real quick. I mentioned it a little bit ago. Any video platform we'll work with, we pull in video in our video library here, and set up organizations similar to our playbook, game film, practice film, scout film. We can view by specific, and then we can view by, maybe we add some opponent features to it. So I can view, my scout film for my opponents, Maryland, Rutgers, et cetera. So I can keep this separate. I could also add player numbers, so I can build really detailed player video libraries out of our, teams are playing consistently. Again, just streamline that process, trying to keep everything in one spot for you, building playlists to send to, players. But yeah, just in every kind of video we work with. If your program is fortunate to have, like a sports code import, a sports code feature with Huddle, we do have a sports code package import as well, add on. To streamline that process. But good awesome question there.
I have a personal question for the coaches, if you don't mind, as we go back to the app. So having left coaching before I had the opportunity to coach with Just Play, are your players watching everything landscape, or are they scrolling through regular? Have you watched them consume your scouting reports on the app? I'm just curious.
I have not.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like when I'm watching my players look at either practice film or some things that might be here, it's usually landscape.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was
just curious.
Say the same, echo that.
They, to a point there, like the video we talked about, it's actually automated to, when you go landscape, the video goes full screen in that landscape view. You know, our view here for a phone, if I just shrink this up a little bit, you know, would be this view, right? So it's the same setup. We're gonna have video clips below, but anytime we turn that phone horizontal, it's gonna snap that video right there to the front and center. Okay, so good question. It's interesting to know how players utilize it, or if they're, you know, some programs have tablets too, which is nice. The players get the tablets and they utilize it that way. So individual player profiles as well with the video, I think is important. So let's click into Tara Lynn here, you know, her profile with a video, and she's got, again, statistics, player tendencies, matchup keys, right, left, dominant. She's also got plays tagged specifically to her profile. So if, you know, she's the creator on this play, et cetera, you know, maybe that's where we're going to tag it to her. And then obviously the question mark for players to ask questions to the coaching staff. You know, that's what I want to dive into specifically for the scattering report piece, is the automation piece. We're going to streamline your process, make your time more efficient in season, and then present this content right to players, right on their phones or tablets, where it's easily digestible, but also can be, you know, more robust with the content we can provide. The print, which I mentioned I'd go back to show you all the print setup here. Let me turn on our plays and our features here, but we customize this as well. PDF saved, you can print these off, you know, give to players. Some players, you know, I think Melissa mentioned this earlier, Justin, like players learn different ways. Some players like that, you know, that book in their hands, right? That hard copy to have, make notes on. So, you know, we provide both mediums. Again, the matchup, you know, some keys here. There's your player matchups with details for players, depth chart. There's our lists. We've got our team leaders. You know, we can filter by, you know, top scores, et cetera there. We've got our comparison, and then we've got our plays, and then, you know, full flexibility, you know, to customize how our plays are displayed, you know, on that. If we want to show smaller, you know, 2 rows, et cetera, 2 per row, we can do that and really customize this view for you within your scatter report template. So that would be the scatter report piece. Justin, stop me if we've got any overall questions about the scatter report, but, you know, I don't know, Melissa, you know, Rob, just on player feedback on, you know, how they were able to take these scatter reports, you know, wherever and view the content. Again, your you know, statistics on the analytics would show that there were a lot of views and you had a lot of scatter reports in here. So, you know, they're viewing it, maybe not sitting there for half an hour at a time, but they're hopping into their matchup and watching that video, those video clips, or watching those, you know, diagrams of the players. So, you know, any additional nuggets here from you all in the scouting process?
Well, I think one of the things that's great too, you know, Matt, I don't think you touched on it, but you can download the scouting report so that when you're on the road, you don't have to deal with challenges with the Wi-Fi on the road. And so you have the scouting report, but then you also have, I think one of the greatest things that we did a lot was utilize putting film in there for the individual players. I think that, like, a lot of our players, especially the ones that have matchups, they're the ones that are going to want to be on that on the road and feel really confident. Like you said before, it's the preparation, and that's kind of what we talk about. Like, this is their preparation, and some of them get it. Again, they see it once and they're good, but a lot of them like to see it over and over and feel confident, watch it at breakfast, and they have it at their fingertips. So
that's a great point, Coach. It's a great point. And in the background right now, you can see I'm downloading this to offline mode just to showcase what Melissa's talking about. You know, players, coaches alike can take content offline, similar to Netflix, Spotify, et cetera. We download this, then on their app, you know, they can pull it up on the road when they don't have the Wi-Fi set up. So simple download, we'll upload, get set up here, and then the content they can view on the offline mode is then available whenever they want to go back online. They can toggle it, go back online to their online app there. So yeah, great point, Coach. Definitely. Just touching, I got just a couple little things left to touch on. So feel free to pop in questions if there are any additional ones. You know, Coach mentioned the travel mode. One thing I want to talk a little bit about is something that was actually new this last year, and I think this was kind of focused to the landscape of where we were with not being able to always meet in the same place. And going into the fall, I think that's something. There's still a little bit of uncertainty out there, so we brought on group sessions. I think group sessions is a great way as a coaching staff, to be able to monitor and hold accountable what you're presenting and so what your players are viewing in essence. So group sessions are going to be the ability for you to create an online session within the player app where the players then log in and register to join a session. And then you will get, a detailed feedback loop of who's in, who's viewing their content. If they leave their screen, you'll get a red flag. So they got to make sure that they're paying attention. But in essence, we start the group session and then you go and present. And players, you'll see the number count here. Players will view the content that you're running through on your app. And also providing commentary to this, but going through a scatter report, say, as you talk through these pieces, and then players' devices will mirror that in the group session. So that was something that I think was really beneficial for a lot of programs last spring. And again, even when you don't have that set meeting time, or you want to streamline some of those meetings and provide it maybe more on the mobile or remote access, then I think there's a great benefit to being able to pop in and talk through a scatter report or talk through, I think even a practice plan, talk through a new drill that you're going to run prior to a practice, just a quick, hey, 5 minutes before you get to the locker rooms, this is what we're doing. There's a lot of benefit there in that. So controlling what they're viewing and keeping them accountable in that capacity. So that is group sessions, great feature that we've added as we continue to, take feedback from our coaches and try to provide more value for you as coaches. So just want to recap, make sure I covered everything here. I think we've hit on it. I would say maybe just to close this, Coach Bray, Coach Lehman, just kind of maybe you're going into, Rob, you're going into your second year utilizing, Melissa, you'll be going into, I think, the third year utilizing it coming up. And just so kind of, I know there's still a lot we want to do in it as well, but just kind of get an overall, what's the biggest feature that you guys are the biggest benefit your players take away from this, you as a staff take away from this, for coaches that are out there listening and asking that question.
For us, it's going to be the onboarding. We have a lot of new faces in the program, and it's just going to be a way before we actually get on the field in a few weeks to share the content once everybody's cleared the compliance piece and get them, familiar with the things we do before we get together. Again, it's a time management thing, and I think for us in year two, obviously as a staff, figuring out how to use it better as well and be more efficient with our time, which then makes it much more efficient for our kids.
Yeah, we'll be on meetings here this fall, Rob, for sure.
Definitely.
For coaches that don't know, I support our accounts. And so we try to have quite a few meetings and get set up and then listen for feedback. Honestly, that's a big part of it too, hearing feedback on how things were utilized and how can we, streamline your process even more. But Melissa,
also, let me say this. Sorry, Matt. Sorry to interrupt, but Matt is always available for the most part. And if he isn't, it's like, even if it's off hours, he will respond to a text. But there's also a function where you can just throw a question into the program and you'll get an answer pretty quickly, no matter what time it is. So it's really very helpful once you get started in this, because there's a lot to it and it takes a little bit of time, but it saves a lot of time once you figure it out.
Great, Coach.
Yeah, I would echo that. And Matt is always someone that'll throw a text, shoot us a text or an email like, hey, coaches, hope everything's doing well if you want to jump on another demo or just to run through things. So I think that's been super helpful. And so thank you, Matt, for everything. But I would say, I mean, when we're in season in the spring, the majority of our time is spent in that scouting reports and kind of building out as the season goes, if you're tweaking whatever offensive sets you have. But I mean, just the time, the function that they automatically sync the statistics. I remember before every game having to go in, look up the stats and manually add the goals just to provide all that information. So talk about time saver and just having that there. I think that's huge. And the scouting report, like you can give so much information or you can scale it back, and just to have the ability to do whatever you feel like your program needs is really great. But I agree with Rob with the onboarding. I think that's probably the biggest thing of getting your new players. And especially now, I know a lot of programs are having transfers, and just getting them up to speed as quickly as possible, and being able to, I think when I think about like how our freshmen utilize it, we're throwing so much at them in the first couple of weeks when we're actually on the field. And there are some that are shyer than others, and some of them aren't afraid to ask questions, but some are like, what the heck is coach talking about when she says a flare? I have no idea, right? And they can reference our terminology that we have in there, maybe see it, and then we try, if we can, to get a film clip so they can actually see it in action. And so it's just kind of next level with what we can provide, and just to give them the confidence as players. I think that's what we're always in the business of, trying to build their confidence so they can perform at their best. But I like what you were just talking about, talking about the plays to really help the scout team. I think that's a huge area where so many teams, if we can have those players, like they're important. And so to have them really buy in this way is huge, and definitely an area that as a staff, I'd love to get on more. So.
Yeah, I think, Melissa, just to wrap up, but I think Rob, same thing. I think we, and we have a process internally, just like your team has a process, and we continue to take things we see and things I see and try to provide that back to you on your process. But to your point, Melissa, I think it'd be good to hop on one and talk through the scout card essentially piece, which is, I think, something I coached high school football back in the day. So like, that's kind of the football, taking things from other sports on how they prepare and utilizing it, for our sport in lacrosse, I think is really beneficial. So yeah, we'll get on a meeting for sure.
But I want to jump in real quick and echo coaches that Matt is awesome. And you'll see in the chat, if you want to blow him up, I dropped his email address in there and a link to jump on his calendar. He can't even stop you. So if you want a meeting with Matt, there's a link in the chat and you can schedule that. This has been recorded, and we will make sure that you get a copy of this recording. Let's see, it's Monday morning here in Las Vegas. I will make sure that we get this either late this afternoon or early tomorrow. So that's my 2 cents. Everybody who attended, thank you so much for your time. And Matt, anything that we missed?
I think I wanted to give that 10,000 foot view really on how everything was set up. I would love to, like Justin mentioned, I'd love to jump in more in depth specifically to your program and how your workflow is, and see, what kind of needs we could fill going into this fall and this next season. But I just want to thank Melissa and thank Rob, Justin, thank you too. But coaches, just appreciate you hopping on. I know it's you guys are getting ready for the fall, so I definitely appreciate your time and continue working with you both. So
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Yep, happy to be here. Thanks,
Good
Matt.
luck, everybody.
All right, with that, I'm going to hit stop on the recording.